Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Maria Brinck joining us. Maria is a visionary thought leader devoted to breaking up the traditional leadership monopoly in order to generate the diversity of thought necessary to solve the most pressing challenges in organizations. Her new book is The Leadership We Need, a New Mindset for a Brighter Future, and it hit store shelves earlier this week on October the 7th, just a couple of days ago. So welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much, Andy, for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, you have a very, very interesting story, and we'll try to stay as linear as we possibly can, but it's just a fantastic story. Can you give our listeners the elevator pitch version of that story?
Sure, and I think a lot of your listeners can relate to my story. My story started when I worked in corporate America. I was coming up for about a decade. And I felt that I didn't have fulfillment. I didn't have meaning in my work. And I was looking for something bigger than myself. At the time, I was working in sales. And I thought, this is just not working out for me. And I was on the top of my game. I was, ranked number 2 in the nation. And I thought, wow, something needs to change. So I made a change and moved to Africa to work with chimpanzees and gorillas in the Congo Basin Rainforest. It was a true change for me, and it led me and set me up on a very different path. And there I also decided to come back and have a bigger, larger impact in making this world a better place.
Well, when most people say, I really wasn't fulfilled in my work, so I had to make a change, the answer usually isn't moving to Cameroon.
No. And you probably don't need to go there. And it's actually, we'll get to that hopefully later in the show. But I have a few techniques in my book that can help you get there without having to move to Cameroon.
Without having to move to Cameroon. So you spent time with gorillas and chimpanzees. The day of this taping, Jane Goodall passed away, like a couple of hours before we were taping this. So thank you for all of your hard work there, Jane.
I didn't actually know that. So thanks for sharing that with me. And how sad. She's one of my absolute idols in this world. So I'm very saddened to hear that.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm the one that's bringing that to you. It literally flashed up on my phone about an hour ago. So
Wow.
Oh, boy. All right. Yeah. Well, Maria, if you had to pick an event in your life, maybe other than, maybe it's the gorillas and chimpanzees, but an event in your life that just really accelerated your career, what would that be?
Well, it was also in Cameroon that I got an opportunity to work with indigenous leaders. And it was something that I hadn't planned. It was kind of one of those things, you go there and all of a sudden you observe the energy and you observe the people around you and how things are different. And I came to realize that, wow, things are very different here. The leaders speak last. They make sure that their community members are feeling seen and heard and valued. And I thought this could have profound impact on corporate America and even the leadership that I came from, which was very black and white, very dry cut, all about competition, all about having the most command and leading the conversation. And that really made me think about how would this look like in corporate America? And so it did change my trajectory coming from hardcore corporate sales of technology and pharmaceuticals and biotechnology, and thought, wow, this leadership is interesting. I really want to bring it back. So it did. It was one of those moments.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's go right to leadership. In your opinion, what's the most important challenge with the current state of leadership in corporations?
I feel that's kind of what I mentioned a little bit there, where it's the ego, it's the need and desire to be the smartest person in the room, taking command really early on and dominating the conversation, and not creating a safe space for others to speak up, and controlling. It's so sad because now more than ever in organization and also on top of nations, we really need the diversity thought more than ever because things are just so complex and things are speeding up that we can no longer rely on one person, often a man, with very masculine leadership qualities, to run the show. The
Yeah.
stakes are frankly too high.
Yeah. So I was, for our listeners, we're on this little mini series on bad bosses, toxic leadership. Well, we had Kate Lowry on the show last week talking about fear-based leaders. And, I'll say it again. I was the Andy said, what I thought was the smartest guy in the room. I know I wasn't. And it was whatever I said went. And people were kind of waiting for me to kind of put my stamp of approval on just about everything that happened. And I can attest directly to the fact that things really changed when I started talking last, when we brought more voices in the room, when we empowered, and when we really actively listened to what was going on. So thank you so much for doing this work. You were in, as you mentioned, in the Congo Basin rainforest. What was the most important personal lesson that you learned during your time there? We'll get to how it translated into business in just a little bit, but you, Maria Brinck, what was your big moment?
It was a very big moment for me because I came, as I mentioned in the beginning of your show, from feeling unfulfilled and questioning where I was heading in life and at work and in my career. And at the time, I, came over as an international student from Sweden. I thought, very much about the American dream, opportunities, and had spent, many years at university here and then corporate America. And I thought, wow, it's not quite playing out the way I thought. What I found in Cameroon that was missing in not just the United States, but I would say the Western world, and maybe even more so in corporate America, was that truer sense of connection. Connection to myself, connection to the people around me, connection to the animals there, to the whole ecosystem, to nature, to the forest. And I realized within that connection, there is so much meaning, there's so much belonging, because we all come from there. We're all part of that. And that belonging is something I think is sorely missing in the Western world, in our personal lives as well as at our professional lives. That's what I found. And I couldn't be more happy to have that because it's something I carry with me every day now. It's such a gift. And it was simple, there was obviously no materialistic luxury down there. There was no comfort. And to be honest, we were pretty much starving to death because all the financials had to go to save the gorillas and the chimpanzees. I think humans were last on that list. But that was fine. I got something else. I got something else and was bigger than all of that. So yeah,
it's amazing how lonely we can be with all these devices, all these people around us, yet we're so isolated and so alone. I'll draw a through line for our listeners back to Philip Atkinson's episode from a couple of weeks ago, where we were talking about reconnecting with nature. And as a leader, Philip's whole thing was beekeeping and being around literally tens of thousands of bees that we're normally deathly afraid of. But there's a certain peace and harmony that can come from the mindfulness practice of reconnecting with nature, not trying to own it or control it, but be with it. And I would, so thank you for bringing that back to us today, because if I had leader XYZ sitting in front of me right now, who's having trouble connecting with their teams, I'd say, get out in nature and connect with yourself there. Would you agree?
Yes, that's a good place to start. Really start thinking about connecting with yourself and bringing self-awareness to the table. And also start connecting and understanding and learning the dreams and aspiration of the people that you work with and bringing that to the forefront. That's when you have true connection to your direct employees and followers. And so important to motivate and engage them.
Yeah. No, this might be a perfect transition into our next question, which is, as we said, to translate your time in Cameroon to leadership lessons. What is the most important thing that a senior leader can learn from your time there?
It is really to let that big ego go, and I had to learn it myself. I had a big ego. I was all about myself and getting ahead and competing and wanting to be the best. And it came to, feeling isolated, questioning the meaning of my life. It was unsustainable. It wasn't fun. And then I realized, wow, what I really need is just connecting with what's really important, and that is the relationships. It's interesting what you just brought up there, because I think in this capitalistic world that we live in the Western world, it's all about our success is supposedly in stuff and status and titles and money. When in reality, maybe I wouldn't say all the success in the relationship and connections, but at least we need a balance between the two. We obviously need money and things for survival as well. But what really gives us meaning is for sure the connections. And that's what I would say to corporate leaders: work on those connections. It's going to pay back big time.
Yeah, and you can be very successful. You can make a lot of money as a leader, as a business manager, and be kind of heart, kind of mind, open up your ears, connect with your people, empower your people, instead of talking down or at them and expecting them to do exactly what you say when you say it. Again, my eyes, my ears were opened to that about a decade and a half ago now. But it was amazing what we were able to accomplish as a team. So it's not a this or that. It can be an and, don't you think?
It is an and. It is an and to have that balance. And it's interesting you bring up the financials there too. We know that toxic masculinity and toxic leadership, and I do put them together because, as corporate America, 93% of the top leaders are men. And I think we see it across the world as well, in nations, all the world religions, et cetera, et cetera. It is truly monopolized. But what you will see is with that type of leadership, it comes at a cost. It comes at about $8.8 trillion dollar cost of lost productivity, because you're frankly not engaging your employees. And we're talking about 80% of employees being disengaged at work. And I would say that is a direct cost to that type of leadership. It's not fun, and it's not sustain. It's not even fun for the leader, I believe.
No,
And it's definitely not. Yeah, it's not. And it's frankly not working. And there is a huge cost associated with it that I think needs to be brought to the forefront, because I think people don't realize the cost of it all. Not just the well-being and the thing, loneliness and the meaningless of it all, but truly financial as well.
Yeah. And, those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you can clearly see that I am a white American male. I take absolutely no offense to what Maria is talking about here. And what we need to do as men is to become more confident with who we are as individuals, to be able to sleep at night, to be at peace with ourselves as human beings. And once you do that, all the imposter syndrome that you're living with, am I good enough, all the sleep that you're losing, and how you're taking it out on your team members, and all of this value destruction, 8.8 trillion, even if it's a quarter of what Maria is talking about, it's real. It's, even if it's a quarter, it's about what, 10% of U.S. GDP. That's a lot.
Yeah. And thanks, Andy, for bringing that to the show, and your personal story, because I think it's the lack of confidence, because that's when you need to overcompensate, and it's so obvious to me that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate when you see the few women that make it into the corporate boardrooms and top positions. Often, unfortunately, you see the same thing. And I've had the experience too. Actually, the leader I left when I left for Cameroon was a woman. And I've seen it myself. And often they also feel like they have to overcompensate, and it becomes even more toxic. And it's unfortunate, but it's really in that lack of confidence that happens. And I think it needs to be pointed out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we're going to take a really short break, and when we come back, we're going to really dive into this topic a bit more. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, I'd like to invite you to start your weekend with me on the Saturday Morning Muse podcast. I briefly explore topics that span leadership, business management, education, and personal continuous improvement. Subscribe to the Saturday Morning Muse podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app, or visit andrewtemte.com for more information. And we're back with Maria Brinck talking about leadership. So, Maria, tell us more about your book, The Leadership We Need. What led you to your aha moment when you said, my goodness, all these thoughts in my head, I got to write a book?
Yeah, it was, I think it was kind of starting to brew and percolating to the experience in the Congo Basin rainforest. But ironically, it wasn't until over a decade later, I'd already been in leadership for all that time and as a leadership consultant, that a sad dispute in my own family really got me to start writing things down. It was out of frustration, because what I saw, and ironically, my Swedish family, Sweden is supposed to be the female utopia of the world. If you watch the movie Barbie or read the book Invisible Women, Sweden is top notch and off the chart on gender equality. But in my own family, to my surprise, was the toxic masculine. And it was a figure that I would not have expected that all of a sudden showed up. And it wasn't directly directed at me, it was directed at my mother. And so I just start writing it down. And finally I thought, I see this, I've seen it, in the corporate world. I've seen it in United States here, and you see it everywhere. And it's so accepted. But when it happens in your own family, it was that final straw. Mm. And that's where it started. I'll leave it at that. The book is not about the family dispute. It's literally one page out of 200, so don't worry.
Nice. Well, Maria, our minds are filled with subconscious bias. I am at this stage in my life, I'm 62 years old. I'm on the other side of big CEO roles. But my mind is filled with subconscious bias. The concept of toxic masculinity, it's it is in my foremind. I think about it when I'm interacting with other teams and groups, but sometimes it's just there, right? So if I asked you to pick the top two biases that lead most leaders astray, what would those be, and how can we reduce the impact of subconscious bias?
I think, to your point, bias is all around us, and it's very unfortunate. And I'm sure it's been there for a good purpose, positive intent starting out. But there are a lot of biases that, frankly, are outdated and now are a disservice to all of us. I would like to shift a little bit the bias to also think about the followers, because I think I would like to point out a subconscious bias that I see in followers. And it's this subconscious that allows this toxic masculinity to continue in our organizations, in our nations. And that is the subconscious bias in who we think is qualified and capable to lead. It's unbelievable if you think about it, but we're still going and voting in and elevating people that are tall, as if that had something to do with leadership.
Right. Oh, hey, Maria, I'm all of 5'6", right?
Okay.
And I have faced that. I've been passed over for promotions because I'm the short guy in the room. So I've been directly impacted by what you're talking about.
There you go. And of course, we're also going for that, the tall, the assertive, the domineering personality, right?
Yeah.
And I need, in our bias, we need to really think through: is that personality really what's serving us and our well-being? And is that type of personality uh, what is capable of solve our most pressing problems? And at this time in our history, to meet the moment, we really need leaders that are capable and qualified to address things like climate change, like unregulated AI, rising nuclear threats, unregulated biotechnology, our next pandemic. Do we have a plan in place? We don't. And ironically, we're bringing leaders into the highest positions of power. They're frankly not capable, and neither are they bringing in people around them that are the experts, but more of the yes men.
Right.
And I say yes men because most of those leaders are men. And that is a very dangerous situation. And you're not, and we talked about diversity of thought, you're doing the exact opposite. And at this moment in history, it couldn't be more dangerous. And I think a lot of your listeners would agree. So I think we need to put that bias on the followers as well, to wake up and really sit back and ask, who is actually the most qualified? It's such a gut feel. I usually, if we have time, I give you a quick example of how I see it. And I actually bring this into the leadership we need. It's a scenario where we're on an airplane. It's a small airplane, so there's only one pilot. The pilot faints. We need to do a vote to select who's going to fly the airplane now. A big man, confident, assertive, stands up and say, "Hey, I've done some training. I got this. Trust me, I'll take over." Do we wait a second and see if there's actually somebody on the plane to actually have a pilot license? Or do we just say, yes, take over? We don't stop and think before getting that man to take over. That's how I feel humanity. That's the path humanity is on right now. And it's not a good place. And that was a long answer to your question. And the bias that the leader has is this, going back to the big ego. And it would be actually nice for the same leader to feel, I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to be the smartest in the room. I don't need to dominate the conversation. I think it would be a huge relief, and to your point, where they can now sleep at night, because you know what? We're all in this together. You don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah. Expedience in many cases kind of takes over. And if the answers aren't coming fast enough or the solutions aren't coming fast enough, and I'm totally guilty of it, I would just step in and say, okay, we're not getting the answer fast enough, therefore this is the answer. And back to that mindfulness conversation we had earlier in our time together today, spending time with yourself, getting to understand you as an individual, becoming much more mindful, and being okay with a meeting ending without some concrete solution so that we can check the box and move on to what's next. You gotta just like building muscle, you got to put in a few reps on that. You've got to exercise that part of your brain and how you operate. So this is advice from a man who has been there, done that in many respects, and has made that shift and transition as successfully as I can. I'm continuously improving all the time, but that's where mindfulness comes in, because you have to practice that mindfulness in the moment of that meeting when most of your brain is sitting there going, we need an answer right now. But then, okay, can we wait till tomorrow? Can we actually sleep on this? Is that going to lead to a better result? This is this is my advice to the men out there that struggle
and,
with
that's
that.
such a short term as well. It's short term lived. And what we need to focus on is the long term wealth building. And we're not getting to the long term wealth building because we're so focused on making money while we can. Let's break things and fix problems later. But that kind of mentality is no longer sustainable. And the things that we're dealing with and the complexity and take AI, for example, we don't even know what the long-term consequences are. So we should really look at, yes, we should explore it. And we should look at some of the possible consequences of it and take that action as well, and weighing those two sides. And of course, that's not quite how it's happening. It's all about let's break the code. Let's worry about the consequences later, right? It's the same kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But so I like that, Andy, that, we should really take a breath and think about the long term.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is all a balancing act. So, Maria, what have we missed today in our conversation, just in like a minute? What have we missed today that you want to make sure that listeners take away?
Sure. Well, I want to put out there that the book, The Leadership We Need, it's not just for leaders. Of course, it's for leaders and aspiring leaders, but it's really to find the leader within, because I think we all need to find that leader within us and make sure that we make good decisions and show up the best we can and lead our lives. Lead our lives from a place of values that are being honored, our strengths, our unique strengths, and create purpose in our lives. And we are responsible for that as well. You can't put everything on, corporate leaders. I mean, they have a lot of pressure. So I also want to make sure that it's also on the follower. And I do have some great assessments in the book that can really help you with that and the next step.
Excellent. So just I want to say the words here. With this conversation over the last 2 weeks may lead some men who are listening to this to think, "Gosh, Andy, you're really weak. This is a really weak thing." And let me be very clear. I am a very strong man. I am strong-willed. I am strong physically. And how dare anybody think that I'm a weakling? I am stronger because I've awoken to the power of inclusiveness, collaboration, active listening, empowerment of the people who are around me, and I'm better for it. And you know what? You can too. So I have all the faith and confidence in you. So let's all keep growing together. Maria, thank you for being here. How can people find out and learn more about you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Maria Brinck, Brinck. And the book is available on any favorite online bookstore. And I do appreciate what you said there, and I just wanted to say, building bridges, being courageous, connect with people, and often people that are very different from you and I are the way to go. And it's the strongest and most bold thing you can do. So, and connect with yourself. So thank you for being one of those leaders.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to have some fun and a little lightning round question?
Sure.
I got 3 of them for you. So number 1, you just won $100 million lotto jackpot, but there's a stipulation that half of your net winnings go to one philanthropic organization or cause. Who do you pick?
Well, I do have the honor to sit on the advisory board of COPX. It's copx.org. It's a new initiative where you bring the COP 29 and et cetera, et cetera. I think we're at COP 29 now for the environment, where people do local solutions to climate problems, environmental problems, and they go to this website and put in their little success story, and it can be shared globally and scaled globally. So it's a fantastic way to climate solutions, really, by the people. So COPX.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. So like TEDx for
exactly.
For the climate initiatives.
For the everyday people. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Number 2, I give you access to a really little time machine, and you can send a message to an earlier version of Maria Brinck. What's the message, and what previous version do you send it to?
Well, and it seems to me that you and I have a lot in common, because I used to be that same type that needed to be in control, had a pretty big ego, and I thought I was right about everything. Turns out I wasn't, and as I mentioned, came down basically, and I need to revisit my life and bring meaning into my life. And what I do now is really. I'm sure I'm aware of it, and try to bring those connections that we talked about, and always try to learn from other people and be humble. It's not about being bold. It's about being bold through being humble, I should say, or have command, but being command of creating space for others. So you can use it, but use it differently. And that's what I'm looking at.
All right. We're all works in progress. What are you focused on right now in your personal journey of growth?
Well, it is interesting, because actually, even just yesterday, I was in a business meeting, and it was with a former woman of Congress, happens to be a Republican, and I just learned so much. And she and I have been starting to collaborate on a lot of different things. And I come from a little bit of a different perspective on the political spectrum. And I think that is just amazing when you can build bridges, learn from others, stay open, and together we can solve so many problems. But it takes that putting your ego aside and thinking you have all the answers, putting that to the side and open up for other people. And boy, have I learned a lot, and even in the meeting yesterday. So that's what I'm working on, and keep building bridges, relationships, connections.
Good. Well, I'll do the same, and let's not give up. So, Maria, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Andy. This has been fun.
All right. Very good. Well, my name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services, as well as out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public good with your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, and a family member or two. The show is produced by Nicholas Temte, and we'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.